Now I want to let my viewers know that you actually first attended a community college before transferring into
Yeah.
UCLA. So can you share with my students who are also community college or transfer students, what are some tips on how to successfully transition from a community college into a top four-year university such as UCLA? And I ask you this because I noticed that while some of my students, like yourself, do well, others struggle big time once they transfer into UCLA.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. But I have to admit, at first, when I first got to UCLA, I did struggle a bit, at least during my first quarter, because it was a big transition going from CC to UCLA. But I used that first quarter as a learning experience that really did help me do well later on in my career at UCLA, which is when I took one of your classes. And I think one of the big things is to really be humble, because I know it's easy to think you're really great after spending 2 years working hard at a CC and then transferring to a top school. But you got to kind of remember that you're now a small fish in the bigger pond compared to when you were at CC. You were a big fish in a small pond at the point of you leaving those 2 years. And it's really about planning and time management. You got to really develop those skills because you're going from 16-week semesters to 8-week quarters. It's really condensed and it's really easy to get behind if you don't plan accordingly. And make friends, because it's really about working together, helping each other out. It's a lot easier to do things when you have someone right there next to you.
Well, great. I'm glad you shared those tips because I remember when you were in my intermediate accounting class, you made friends really easy, right? There were several people always chatting with you all the time. And
Yeah.
also, I'm so glad you mentioned about being humble, right? And so that's what I remember about you. You were someone easy to talk with, right? When there were areas you needed to improve on, we can easily have a dialogue. And then you were great in taking feedback. There's some students, again, they're accustomed to being at the top of their class when they were in community college. When I was talking to them, they had a hard time accepting, right? They had a hard time realizing that, hey, now at a school such as UCLA, which is I think the number one, two, or three top public public university, that the
Yeah.
standards are much higher. And so I'm trying to work with them so that I can raise their bar so they can ultimately be successful in the corporate world. But for some students, right, they're not used to that transition. They're used to saying, oh, you know what,
Exactly.
this is good enough, right? So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned CPA exam earlier, so I want to congratulate you for passing all four parts of the CPA exam, which is a major milestone in any accounting professional's life. So
Yeah.
having said that, I wanted to ask you about what are some tips to pass the CPA exam, especially this is going to be your tip on this is going to be especially helpful because I know you actually had to work while studying for the CPA exam, which I know several of my students will be doing because some students pass before they start working, but a lot of students, they may need to pass all four parts, at least some of the parts before while they are working full time. So please share.
Yeah. Thanks again for that, First Salute. First and foremost is you really need to take it seriously and get it out of the way as soon as you can, because the further along you are in your career, the harder it'll be because you're going to have more responsibilities as your knowledge grows. Uh, and if you can afford to, yeah, you should take a couple exams before you start. Some people I know they start in the fall and pass one or two in the summer, but when it comes to working while trying to finish off those exams, like I said, you just gotta commit to it. You gotta put in the hours before work, after work, and at least for me, tax is pretty cyclical. So due to the nature of our deadlines, there is some study time during the off season, and I would recommend taking advantage of that time to continue to study for the exams. It's really easy to, after a long, busy season of working many hours, to want to take a break, but you should really just continue working hard because that's what's really going to get you there and propel your career forward, because getting that CPA is a huge deal in accounting, and it'll put you far above everybody else, all your peers.
Wonderful. Now, one last question. Um, like yourself, many of the guests that I invite to come speak on my YouTube channel are all very successful. However, I think all of them, or almost all of them, didn't come from wealthy families, or they had to overcome a lot of adversity in their life before they became successful. So can you share with my viewers a little bit about your family background, as well as 3 tips to be successful in life?
Yeah, so my parents immigrated from Mexico in the early 20s, and then they had me and my sister here in America. They did not have the same educational opportunities that I have had here in the US. So they worked various low skilled jobs throughout their life to, support me and my sister. And as I grew older, I could see and appreciate how smart and hardworking my parents were. And and my parents never really pushed me to do anything. They just cared about me being happy. But seeing them working hard and knowing that if they had the same opportunity that I had, that they would have been able to land great careers. So I took it upon myself, even though they didn't push me to work hard and find a career that I enjoyed while seeking higher education and being the first person in my family to graduate from high school and college even. And so I guess the two main things, 2 tips I would give about life is just always work hard, because no matter how hard you work, or as long as you work hard, even if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get somewhere. If you're always moving forward, you're gonna get somewhere. And always do it with a positive attitude. Life is always hard, but if life wasn't hard, then it wouldn't be life. Things would be too easy, and there would be nothing about it. So it's all about really working hard and doing it with a positive attitude. That's all you can really do, and I don't think you can really fail if you do those 2 things.
Well, Bobby, I mean, I certainly think your parents did a fantastic job. I hope my kids can turn out to be as successful as you are. And I have to say, like, it was an absolute pleasure being your former professor. I'm super proud to hear about the great success you've had after UCLA. Congratulations on passing the CPA exam. And also, I'm super happy to see that you are now on your way to completing a master's degree. I wish you and your family well, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the near future. Thank you so much for coming to do the video with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Professor Liu.